Picture this. In 1947, Admiral Richard Byrd led 4,700 men on the largest military expedition to Antarctica in history. They planned to stay 8 months. They fled after 4. Upon returning, Byrd warned of enemies emerging from the poles with incredible speed. His private diary, discovered decades later, describes crystal cities and beings concerned about humanity's nuclear weapons. But here's what's truly unsettling. Satellite images today reveal massive structures buried under Antarctic ice. The Wilkes Land anomaly spans 300 miles across. Lake Vostok, sealed for 15 million years, contains life forms that shouldn't exist. And still, most of Antarctica remains off-limits to civilians. Before we begin tonight's journey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy exploring mysteries with us. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. It's always fascinating to see listeners joining from every corner of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture the most isolated place on Earth, a continent twice the size of Australia, locked beneath ice sheets averaging 2 miles thick. Antarctica sits at the bottom of our world like a frozen fortress, holding secrets that may never see daylight. This isn't just any wilderness. This is a place where the sun disappears for months at a time, where temperatures drop to -100 degrees Fahrenheit, where the wind screams across empty ice fields at 200 miles per hour. It's a landscape so harsh, so completely hostile to human life, that we've barely scratched its surface. But that hostility might be exactly the point. If you wanted to hide something from the rest of humanity, where would you put it? Antarctica offers perfect concealment. No permanent human population. No cities, no roads, no casual visitors dropping by for a weekend trip. The continent is bigger than the United States and Mexico combined, yet fewer than 5,000 people live there during summer months. In winter, that number drops to barely 1,000. Those people aren't tourists, they're scientists and support staff at research stations, scattered like tiny islands across an ocean of ice. Between these stations lie vast expanses of absolutely nothing, or so we're told. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 supposedly opened this continent to peaceful scientific research. 12 nations signed an agreement declaring Antarctica a natural reserve devoted to peace and science. No military activities allowed, no nuclear testing, no territorial disputes. It sounds noble, but some researchers suggest this treaty serves another purpose entirely. Think about it. The world's most powerful nations, many of them bitter enemies during the Cold War, suddenly agreed to share Antarctica peacefully. The same countries that couldn't agree on anything else found perfect harmony when it came to the frozen continent. Why would they cooperate so completely? Perhaps because they discovered something down there that required absolute secrecy. Something that made their political differences seem trivial by comparison. The treaty designates certain areas as specially protected. These zones are off-limits to most researchers, supposedly to preserve fragile ecosystems. But critics wonder what kind of ecosystem needs protection in a place where almost nothing lives naturally. Military activity is officially banned, yet military personnel regularly visit Antarctica as part of logistical support for scientific missions. They fly the transport planes, operate the communications equipment, and maintain the bases. They're everywhere, but they're not supposed to be there in any official military capacity. Modern satellite imagery has revealed structures in Antarctica that don't appear on any official maps. Geometric patterns too regular to be natural formations. Dark spots in the ice that suggest openings or installations beneath the surface. Heat signatures indicating activity in regions that should be completely frozen. When independent researchers try to investigate these anomalies, they encounter bureaucratic walls, permits denied, funding withdrawn. Research proposals rejected without explanation. The message is clear. Some parts of Antarctica are not meant for public scrutiny. The continent's isolation works both ways. It keeps outsiders from seeing what's really there. But it also provides perfect cover for activities that might shock the world if they were conducted anywhere else. Consider the logistics. Antarctica is surrounded by some of the roughest seas on the planet. Supply ships can only reach the continent during brief summer months. Aircraft require specialized equipment to land on ice runways. Communication with the outside world is limited and easily monitored. If you were conducting secret research, you couldn't ask for better conditions. Complete isolation, natural barriers to unwanted visitors, and international agreements that keep most of the world's population from asking too many questions. The few people who do make it to Antarctica are carefully screened. Scientists undergo extensive background checks before being allowed to participate in research programs. Military personnel are bound by security clearances and oaths of secrecy. Even support staff sign agreements limiting what they can say about their experiences. But occasionally, someone talks anyway. Over the decades, stories have leaked out. Tales of strange sightings in Antarctic skies. Discoveries that don't match official scientific reports. Installations that aren't supposed to exist. Personnel who return from Antarctica changed, reluctant to discuss their experiences. These stories are usually dismissed as fantasy, the result of isolation and extreme conditions playing tricks on people's minds. Antarctic syndrome, some call it. The psychological effects of living in such an alien environment. But the stories persist. They come from multiple sources, different time periods, various national programs. The details vary, but common threads run through many accounts. Objects moving through polar skies without sound. Structures hidden beneath the ice. Technology that seems impossibly advanced. The official response is always the same. Natural phenomena, weather balloons, ice formations, perfectly reasonable explanations for anything unusual. Yet questions remain. Why is so much Antarctic research classified? Why do some scientists return with stories they're not allowed to tell? Why does satellite imagery of certain regions get edited or removed from public databases? Antarctica keeps its secrets well. The ice has been accumulating for millions of years, preserving whatever lies beneath in perfect frozen silence. If something extraordinary is hidden down there, it could remain concealed indefinitely. Unless someone decides the world deserves to know the truth. December 1946. The largest military expedition to Antarctica in human history was about to launch. Operation High Jump would involve 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft. The official mission, training exercises, and scientific research. But nothing about Operation High Jump looked like a typical research expedition. The fleet included an aircraft carrier, destroyers, cargo ships, tankers, and icebreakers. Fighter planes and bombers joined transport aircraft and helicopters. Marines carried full combat gear. The expedition carried enough supplies for 8 months of operations. This wasn't a scientific mission. This was an invasion force. Admiral Richard Byrd, the decorated polar explorer, led the expedition. Byrd had been to Antarctica multiple times before, establishing research bases and conducting aerial surveys. He knew the continent better than almost any other American. But Byrd had never led anything like Operation High Jump. The sheer scale was unprecedented. More personnel and equipment than most military campaigns of World War II. All headed to the most desolate place on Earth, officially for training purposes. The expedition was scheduled to last 6 months, through the Antarctic summer. Plenty of time to establish bases, conduct extensive research, and train personnel in polar operations. The Navy had invested enormous resources in the mission. Then something went wrong. After just 10 weeks, Operation High Jump was over. The massive fleet packed up and headed home, leaving behind partially completed bases and unfinished research programs. Officially, the early termination was blamed on approaching winter weather. But winter comes to Antarctica at the same time every year. The Navy knew exactly when conditions would become impossible for operations. They had planned for those conditions when they scheduled the 6-month mission. Something else forced their hasty retreat. Admiral Byrd's post-expedition statements only deepened the mystery. In interviews with South American newspapers, he warned that the United States could be attacked by aircraft flying over the polar regions at incredible speeds. He spoke of enemies who could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. This was 1947. Jet aircraft were still experimental. No country possessed technology capable of polar flights at the speeds Byrd described. Yet he seemed genuinely concerned about threats from the Antarctic region. Back in the United States, Byrd's warnings were quickly suppressed. Military censors reviewed his statements before publication. His expedition reports were classified at the highest levels. Members of the expedition were reportedly debriefed and sworn to secrecy about their experiences. Years later, rumors began circulating about a secret diary Byrd allegedly kept during his Antarctic flights. According to these claims, the diary described encounters with advanced beings living in warm valleys beneath the ice, crystal cities powered by unknown technology, warnings about humanity's development of nuclear weapons. The diary allegedly described flight over previously unknown territory beyond the South Pole. Green valleys where the climate was temperate despite the polar location. Strange aircraft that guided Byrd's plane to a landing site near an underground city. The beings Byrd supposedly encountered looked human but possessed technology far beyond anything known in 1947. They expressed concern about surface humanity's recent entry into the atomic age. They had watched previous human civilizations destroy themselves with advanced weapons. According to the diary, these beings maintained installations throughout Antarctica, monitoring surface activities and occasionally intervening to prevent global catastrophe. They had neutralized nuclear weapons during tests, preventing accidents that could have triggered worldwide disasters. Byrd was allegedly told that surface humanity was entering a dangerous phase of development. The beings would continue monitoring, but they would not prevent humanity from destroying itself if that became necessary to protect the planet. When Byrd returned from this alleged encounter, he was supposedly debriefed by Pentagon officials and ordered to keep silent about his discoveries. The diary was confiscated, and Byrd was threatened with court-martial if he revealed what he had seen. Skeptics point out that no original copy of Byrd's secret diary has ever been found. The Byrd Polar Research Center, which maintains his official papers, denies any knowledge of such a document. The writing style of published versions seems inconsistent with Byrd's other writings, but believers argue that the government would naturally confiscate and suppress such explosive revelations. They point to the classification of Byrd's official expedition reports, which remain partially redacted even today. They note the military's unusual interest in debriefing expedition members and the secrecy surrounding operational details. The truth about Byrd's diary may never be known, but the broader questions about Operation Highjump remain unanswered. Why was such a massive military force deployed to Antarctica? What caused the mission's early termination? Why were the expedition reports classified? Some researchers believe Operation Highjump was sent to investigate reports of unusual activity in Antarctica. Perhaps Nazi remnants establishing bases after Germany's defeat. Perhaps something even more extraordinary. The expedition encountered something that forced a hasty retreat. Something important enough to classify the entire operation. Something that continues to influence American policy toward Antarctica decades later. Whatever happened during those 10 weeks in Antarctica changed everything. The frozen continent would never again be seen as merely a scientific curiosity. It had become something else entirely. A place where the impossible might be hidden beneath miles of ice. While the world watched Nazi Germany's growing aggression in Europe, a secret expedition was preparing for the most remote destination on Earth. The German Antarctic expedition would claim a vast territory for the Third Reich, establishing what they called Neuschwabenland, or New Swabia. The official mission was scientific research and territorial claims. Germany wanted access to Antarctica's whaling grounds and mineral resources. But the expedition carried more than scientists and surveyors. Military officers accompanied the researchers. Geologists mapped potential base locations. engineers studied the feasibility of permanent installations. The expedition spent months photographing and cataloging their claimed territory, dropping thousands of metal markers bearing Nazi symbols. But some researchers believe the Germans discovered something far more significant than whaling stations or mineral deposits. The territory they claimed contained vast ice-free areas, warmed by geothermal activity, natural caverns large enough to house substantial installations, protected harbors where submarines could operate undetected, perfect conditions for secret bases. Germany had been developing advanced aircraft designs throughout the 1930s. Disc-shaped experimental craft appeared in German skies during the war years. Allied pilots reported encounters with mysterious Foo Fighters that seemed to defy known aerodynamics. Where was this technology being developed and tested? Some believe the answer lies buried beneath Antarctic ice. The Nazi expedition to Antarctica wasn't Germany's only interest in extreme environments. The regime funded expeditions to Tibet, searching for ancient wisdom and lost civilizations. They investigated hollow earth theories and studied reports of advanced beings living in underground realms. These weren't merely scientific curiosities. Nazi ideology embraced the idea that advanced Aryan civilizations had once ruled the world. They believed this knowledge could be rediscovered and used to restore German superiority. Antarctica offered the perfect location to pursue such research. Complete isolation from Allied observation, natural protection from harsh weather, geothermal energy sources for power, and perhaps access to whatever ancient knowledge might be preserved in the ice. As World War II progressed, reports emerged of German U-boats operating in southern waters far from any known bases. Some submarines disappeared entirely, their final destinations unknown. After Germany's surrender, several U-boats were unaccounted for. Their crews and cargo vanished without explanation. The most intriguing stories involved U-boats, making mysterious voyages to South America in the war's final months. High-ranking Nazi officials disappeared before capture became inevitable. Advanced technology prototypes vanished from German research facilities. Where did they go? Some researchers believe at least some fled to prepared refuges in Antarctica. The Vril Society, a secretive German organization devoted to studying advanced propulsion and energy systems, allegedly made contact with non-human intelligences during the war years. These beings supposedly provided technological assistance in exchange for cooperation in establishing Antarctic facilities. According to these theories, the beings had maintained installations in Antarctica for thousands of years. They were concerned about surface humanity's development of nuclear weapons and sought human allies who could help monitor global activities. The collaboration allegedly continued after Germany's defeat, with surviving Nazi scientists working alongside alien researchers in hidden Antarctic facilities. Advanced technology development proceeded in absolute secrecy, leading to breakthrough discoveries in propulsion, energy generation, and materials science. This technology occasionally surfaced in unexpected ways. The UFO sightings that began in the 1940s might have been test flights of jointly developed craft. The mysterious Foo Fighters of the war years could have been early prototypes. Skeptics dismiss these theories as fantasy, pointing to the lack of concrete evidence for Nazi bases in Antarctica. No installations have been definitively located. No surviving Nazi personnel have confirmed such activities. No alien technology has been recovered and verified. But believers argue that evidence has been systematically suppressed. They point to Operation High Jump as an Allied mission to eliminate Nazi remnants in Antarctica. The operation's early termination suggests the expedition encountered more resistance than expected. The truth about Nazi activities in Antarctica may be hidden beneath miles of ice and decades of secrecy. But satellite imagery continues to reveal anomalous structures in regions claimed by the German expedition. Heat signatures suggest ongoing activity in areas that should be completely frozen. Whatever the Germans discovered or established in Antarctica during the war years, it appears to remain active today. The frozen continent keeps its secrets, but those secrets may be more extraordinary than anyone imagines. Modern expeditions to Antarctica are carefully controlled, with access limited to approved research programs. Independent investigation of anomalous sites is virtually impossible. The international treaty system ensures that certain areas remain off-limits to casual exploration. But as technology advances and political situations change, the truth about Antarctica's hidden history may eventually emerge. The ice preserves everything, including evidence of activities that powerful interests prefer to keep buried. January 2nd, 2015. Investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe received an email that would change everything. The sender identified himself only as Brian, a retired Navy petty officer, first-class flight engineer. He wanted to share experiences that had haunted him for decades. Brian provided military documentation, proving his service in Antarctica from 1983 to 1997. His DD-214 discharge papers, service medals including the Antarctic Service Medal dated November 20th, 1984. Everything checked out. But the story he told seemed impossible. Brian had been assigned to Squadron VXE-6, Antarctic Development Squadron 6, flying cargo and rescue missions throughout the continent. These were routine operations, supporting scientific research stations and transporting personnel and supplies across the frozen wasteland. Except some of what he witnessed wasn't routine at all. Multiple times during his service, Brian and his C-130 crew observed silver disks darting through Antarctic skies. The objects moved at impossible speeds without making any sound. They performed maneuvers that would have destroyed any conventional aircraft. At first, crew members reported these sightings through normal channels, but they quickly learned to stay quiet. Superior officers made it clear that discussing unusual observations was unwelcome. "You saw nothing" became the standard response to any reports of anomalous activity. The sightings became so common that flight crews stopped trying to report them officially. Instead, they discussed the encounters among themselves, comparing notes and trying to make sense of what they were seeing. The objects always appeared as metallic disks, highly reflective, moving silently through the polar atmosphere. They seemed to observe aircraft operations without interfering, maintaining distance but clearly monitoring human activities. Brian's most disturbing encounter occurred during a medical emergency evacuation mission. A researcher at a remote camp needed immediate transportation to a medical facility. The fastest route required flying through a designated no-fly zone near the South Pole. The restricted area was supposedly an air sampling station, conducting atmospheric research that couldn't be contaminated by aircraft exhaust. But as Brian's crew flew over the zone during the emergency, they saw something that shouldn't have existed. A massive opening in the ice, roughly the size of a football field, perfectly circular, with what appeared to be tracks leading into the dark interior. The opening was large enough to accommodate their LC-130 aircraft with room to spare. This wasn't any air sampling station. This was an entrance to something substantial beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Brian's navigator noted their position and took photographs, but the crew was warned after landing that they had seen nothing unusual. The photographs were confiscated, and all crew members were debriefed about their flight path and observations. But the warnings weren't enough to erase what they had witnessed. Word spread among Antarctic personnel about the mysterious opening and what it might conceal. Flight crews began sharing stories about unusual activities in restricted zones. Some spoke of encounters with scientists who seemed terrified after disappearing for weeks in remote areas. Researchers would vanish from their assigned stations, then reappear days or weeks later, refusing to discuss their experiences. Brian recalled one incident near Marie Byrd Land, where a dozen scientists disappeared for 2 weeks without explanation. When they were finally located, they appeared traumatized and unwilling to communicate normally. His crew was assigned to evacuate them to the main base. During the flight, the scientists remained largely silent. When they did speak, they seemed nervous and constantly looked over their shoulders. Their faces, according to Brian, looked genuinely scared. Whatever they had experienced during their disappearance had left them deeply shaken. After delivering the scientists to base personnel, Brian and his crew were debriefed about the mission. They were told the scientists had been conducting sensitive research that couldn't be discussed. But the researchers' behavior suggested they had encountered something far beyond normal scientific work. Talk among flight crews included rumors about collaboration between human personnel and non-human intelligences. Some researchers allegedly spoke quietly about EBAs, extraterrestrial biological entities, working alongside human scientists in underground facilities. These joint research programs were supposedly focused on advanced technology development and monitoring of surface activities. The non-human participants were said to be particularly concerned about humanity's nuclear weapons development and environmental destruction. Brian never personally witnessed direct contact between humans and aliens, but the consistent rumors and unusual behavior of some personnel suggested something extraordinary was happening in Antarctica's most restricted areas. The retired flight engineer stressed that he had never been asked to sign any official non-disclosure agreements about his Antarctic service. But the unofficial pressure to remain silent was intense. Career advancement depended on keeping quiet about unusual observations. Now, decades after his retirement, Brian felt compelled to share his experiences. Too many people had similar stories for all of them to be mistakes or hallucinations. Something significant was happening in Antarctica, something the public deserved to know about. His testimony, backed by verifiable military credentials and consistent with other whistleblower accounts, provides compelling evidence that Antarctica harbors secrets far beyond routine scientific research. The frozen continent may indeed be humanity's best-kept secret. 21st century satellite technology has given us eyes in the sky, unlike anything previous generations could imagine. High-resolution cameras, orbiting hundreds of miles above Earth, can distinguish objects as small as automobiles. Thermal imaging reveals heat sources invisible to the naked eye. Gravitational sensors detect mass concentrations buried deep beneath surface features. When these advanced instruments turned their attention to Antarctica, they began revealing anomalies that challenge everything we thought we knew about the frozen continent. The most striking discoveries are geometric structures that appear too regular to be natural formations. Satellite imagery has identified at least 3 pyramid-shaped objects in different regions of Antarctica, each displaying characteristics that suggest artificial construction rather than natural geological processes. The largest of these structures spans 1.2 miles at its base, making it significantly larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. It displays perfect geometric proportions and precise alignment with compass points. The mathematical precision of its construction seems impossible for natural ice and rock formations. Even more intriguing, portions of this pyramid appear to protrude through the ice sheet, suggesting the structure predates the current glacial coverage. If natural processes created this formation, it would require geological forces operating with engineering precision over millions of years. Thermal imaging reveals that these pyramid structures emit heat signatures different from surrounding terrain. While the ice sheet maintains consistently cold temperatures, the pyramid areas show warmer zones that suggest internal activity or energy sources. One satellite image from 2007 showed what appeared to be a rectangular entrance carved into a cliff face, complete with what looked like artificial stairs. The image clearly displayed discoloration patterns, suggesting heavy machinery had been moved through the area repeatedly. But when researchers tried to locate the same coordinates later, the high-resolution imagery had been replaced with lower-quality images that obscured the details. The original photographs seem to have disappeared from public satellite databases entirely. This pattern of evidence appearing and then vanishing has become common in Antarctic satellite research. Anomalous structures are detected, documented, and then somehow edited out of publicly available imagery. The implication is clear. Someone doesn't want these discoveries to receive public attention. The Wilkes Land gravity anomaly represents perhaps the most significant discovery hiding beneath Antarctic ice. NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment detected a massive object buried under 800 meters of ice, creating gravitational distortions visible from space. The buried object spans 300 miles in diameter, making it larger than the asteroid that allegedly killed the dinosaurs. But unlike a typical impact crater, This anomaly shows characteristics suggesting metallic composition rather than rocky debris. Some researchers theorize that this buried object represents the remains of an enormous spacecraft that crashed into Antarctica millions of years ago. The impact would have been devastating, potentially contributing to major extinction events and geological changes that separated Antarctica from other continents. Alternative theories suggest the object isn't a crashed ship, but an active installation of tremendous size. The gravitational anomaly could represent a vast underground complex, possibly inhabited and operational, hidden beneath the ice for unknown periods of time. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have detected hollow spaces throughout Antarctica's ice sheet, some large enough to contain substantial installations. These caverns often coincide with thermal anomalies, suggesting active heating sources, maintaining temperatures suitable for human habitation. The ice sheet naturally contains some air pockets and natural caverns, but the regular patterns and artificial characteristics of many detected spaces suggest deliberate construction rather than random geological processes. Electromagnetic surveys have identified metallic anomalies buried throughout the continent. These signatures don't match known geological formations, but are consistent with artificial structures containing substantial amounts of refined metals and advanced materials. Some of these metallic anomalies are located in regions claimed by various nations for scientific research, but their exact nature and purpose remain classified. Independent researchers are denied access to conduct detailed investigations. Radio frequency monitoring has detected unusual signals originating from various points throughout Antarctica. These transmissions don't match any known research station communications or natural atmospheric phenomena. The signals appear to be deliberately generated and occasionally synchronized between different locations. Military satellites have reportedly captured imagery of objects moving across Antarctic terrain at high speeds, but these photographs remain classified under national security provisions. The few leaked images show dark objects moving across white ice fields, but details are insufficient for definitive identification. Contemporary satellite technology continues, revealing new anomalies as imaging resolution improves and sensor capabilities advance. Each new discovery raises additional questions about what lies hidden beneath Antarctica's ice sheet. The pattern of evidence suggests substantial artificial activity throughout the continent, far beyond the scope of acknowledged scientific research. Whether these anomalies represent current operations, ancient ruins, or something else entirely remains unclear. But one thing is certain: Antarctica contains secrets that powerful interests work hard to keep hidden from public view. The frozen continent may be humanity's greatest mystery, preserving evidence of activities that could revolutionize our understanding of life on Earth. 2006. NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment satellite began detecting gravitational anomalies throughout Earth's surface, mapping variations in planetary mass distribution with unprecedented precision. Most discoveries were predictable, geological features that matched known surface formations. But one reading defied explanation. Deep beneath East Antarctica's ice sheet, in a region called Wilkes Land, instruments detected something that shouldn't exist. A gravitational signature indicating a massive buried object, creating distortions visible from orbital altitude. The anomaly spans roughly 300 miles in diameter, making it larger than any known impact crater on Earth. It sits buried beneath 800 meters of solid ice, completely invisible to surface observation, but undeniably present to gravitational sensors. Initial analysis suggested an asteroid impact, possibly dating back 250 million years to the Permian extinction event. An object large enough to create such a crater would have been devastating, potentially triggering global climate changes that killed 90% of Earth's species. But closer examination revealed characteristics that don't match typical impact craters. The gravitational signature suggests metallic composition rather than rocky debris. The shape is too regular, too geometrically precise for natural formation processes. Some researchers theorize that this buried anomaly isn't the result of an impact at all. Instead, it might represent an artificial structure of enormous proportions, perhaps a spacecraft or installation that came to rest in Antarctica during prehistoric times. The implications are staggering. If the Wilkes Land anomaly represents artificial construction, it predates human civilization by millions of years. Whatever created it possessed technology capable of moving objects larger than major cities across interplanetary distances. Geological evidence suggests that Antarctica was once a warm, green continent supporting abundant life. The climate changed dramatically during the Permian period, gradually transforming into the frozen wasteland we know today. The timing coincides with the estimated age of the Wilkes Land object. Did this buried anomaly somehow cause Antarctica's transformation from tropical paradise to polar desert? The gravitational distortions it creates affect regional geology even today, influencing ice flow patterns and creating unique environmental conditions in the surrounding area. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted near the anomaly have detected unusual subsurface structures, rather than solid rock or ice. Instruments reveal hollow spaces and regular geometric patterns that suggest artificial construction extending far beyond the main gravitational signature. Electromagnetic surveys have identified concentrated metallic signatures throughout the region. These readings indicate refined metals and exotic materials that don't match known natural deposits. The composition suggests advanced metallurgy and materials science far beyond current human capabilities. Thermal imaging reveals that the Wilkes Land region maintains slightly higher temperatures than surrounding areas, despite being buried beneath hundreds of meters of ice. Something beneath the surface appears to be generating heat, possibly indicating active systems or ongoing processes within the buried structure. Seismic surveys have detected unusual vibration patterns emanating from the anomaly site. These aren't typical geological tremors, but regular pulses that suggest mechanical rather than natural origins. Whatever lies buried beneath Wilkes Land appears to be operational in some capacity. The Australian government, which claims territorial rights over this region of Antarctica, has restricted research access to the area. Scientific expeditions seeking to conduct detailed investigations are routinely denied permits or have their funding withdrawn without explanation. International cooperation that characterizes most Antarctic research breaks down when it comes to Wilkes Land. Nations that normally share scientific data openly become secretive when discussing this particular region. The level of classification and secrecy suggests discoveries far more significant than typical geological features. Independent researchers attempting to analyze publicly available data about Wilkes Land often find that information has been removed or edited. Satellite imagery that once showed clear details of the region now displays lower resolution images that obscure potentially significant features. The few scientists who have conducted research in the area describe unusual experiences. Equipment malfunctions are common. Compasses spin erratically. Radio communications are frequently disrupted. Some researchers report psychological effects, including disorientation and unusual dreams. These effects could be attributed to natural electromagnetic phenomena associated with the gravitational anomaly. But some researchers suggest the symptoms indicate exposure to advanced technology operating beneath the ice sheet. Recent climate change has begun melting Antarctic ice at unprecedented rates. If current trends continue, portions of the Wilkes Land anomaly could become exposed within decades. The possibility of direct access to this mysterious buried structure may be approaching rapidly. But international agreements currently prevent any nation from conducting excavation or detailed investigation of the site. Environmental protection laws prohibit activities that might damage the Antarctic ecosystem. These restrictions ensure that whatever lies beneath Wilkes Land remains hidden from public scrutiny. The Wilkes Land mystery represents one of Antarctica's greatest enigmas. Whether it holds evidence of ancient asteroid impacts, prehistoric civilizations, or something even more extraordinary, the truth remains locked beneath miles of ice and layers of governmental secrecy. The diary supposedly begins on February 19, 1947. Admiral Richard Byrd is piloting his aircraft over the South Pole during Operation High Jump when something extraordinary happens. His instruments begin spinning wildly. His radio crackles with interference, and ahead of him, impossible terrain appears in the Antarctic wilderness. According to the alleged secret diary, Bird's aircraft was guided by strange disc-shaped objects toward what appeared to be an entrance in the polar ice. Despite the freezing temperatures that should have dominated the region, he discovered areas of green vegetation and flowing water. The diary describes a landscape that shouldn't exist: valleys filled with lush forests, rivers running through temperate climates, animals that appeared to be mastodons and other creatures extinct for thousands of years. All of this in the heart of the frozen Antarctic continent. Bird's plane was allegedly escorted to a landing site near a city that defied description: crystal spires rising from perfectly manicured grounds, architecture that seemed to blend natural materials with advanced technology, a civilization that had apparently thrived in hidden valleys while the surface world struggled through ice ages and wars. The beings who inhabited this underground realm looked human, but possessed characteristics that suggested either advanced evolution or non-terrestrial origin: tall, blonde, with features that appeared almost too perfect. They spoke in English, though Bird sensed they were communicating telepathically rather than through normal speech. According to the diary, these beings called themselves the Ariani. They had been monitoring surface humanity's development for thousands of years, occasionally intervening to prevent complete destruction during periods of technological advancement that outpaced wisdom. The Ariani expressed particular concern about humanity's recent entry into the atomic age. They had witnessed previous surface civilizations destroy themselves with advanced weapons, leaving only ruins buried beneath ice and sea. They feared humanity was following the same path towards self-annihilation. Bird was allegedly shown evidence of previous human civilizations that had achieved remarkable technological advancement before destroying themselves through warfare and environmental destruction. The Ariani had preserved records and artifacts from these lost cultures, maintaining underground archives of forgotten knowledge. The diary describes technology that seemed impossible by 1940s standards: aircraft that moved without visible propulsion systems, energy sources that produced unlimited power without fuel or waste products, materials that appeared stronger than steel, yet lighter than aluminum. The Ariani allegedly possessed the ability to neutralize nuclear weapons, having demonstrated this capability during early atomic tests. They had prevented several accidental detonations that could have triggered larger catastrophes, intervening invisibly to protect surface humanity from its own mistakes. But their patience was not unlimited. The diary suggests that the Ariani were preparing for the possibility that surface humanity could not be saved from its own destructive tendencies. If necessary, they would allow civilization to collapse, then emerge to rebuild with survivors who had learned wisdom through suffering. After several hours in this hidden realm, Bird was allegedly returned to his aircraft and escorted back to normal Antarctic terrain. His instruments returned to normal function, his radio resumed normal communications, but everything had changed. The diary describes Bird's return to base and subsequent debriefing by Pentagon officials, who seemed already aware of what he had encountered. Rather than expressing surprise at his report, they appeared concerned primarily with ensuring his silence about the experience. Bird was allegedly ordered to classify his discovery at the highest levels of national security. He was warned that revealing details of his encounter would result in court-martial and imprisonment. The diary entries describing his underground adventure were supposedly confiscated by military intelligence. For the remainder of his life, according to believers in the diary's authenticity, Bird was monitored and controlled by government handlers who ensured his public statements remained within acceptable parameters. His later expeditions to Antarctica were carefully supervised to prevent additional unauthorized discoveries. Skeptics point to numerous problems with the diary's authenticity. No original manuscript has ever been located in Bird's official papers. The writing style doesn't match his documented personal writings. Many details contradict known facts about Operation Highjump and Bird's actual activities. The Bird Polar Research Center, which maintains the explorer's official archives, has repeatedly stated that no such diary exists in their collection. Polar researchers familiar with Byrd's actual writings consider the secret diary to be a fabrication created decades after his death. But believers argue that the government would naturally suppress such explosive revelations. They point to continued classification of some Operation Highjump documents and the military's evident interest in controlling information about Antarctic activities. The diary's descriptions of advanced underground civilizations match other claims about hidden bases and non-human intelligences in Antarctica. Whether these similarities indicate shared truth or shared fantasy remains hotly debated. The secret diary controversy illustrates the broader challenges in separating fact from fiction regarding Antarctic mysteries. Genuine anomalies and classified activities provide fertile ground for both legitimate investigation and elaborate fantasy. Whatever the truth about Admiral Byrd's alleged encounters, the diary has become central to modern speculation about Antarctica's hidden secrets. It represents either evidence of the most significant discovery in human history or one of the most successful disinformation campaigns ever created. The truth may remain buried beneath Antarctic ice for generations to come. The 21st century brought unprecedented government acknowledgement of unexplained aerial phenomena. Military officials who once dismissed UFO reports began testifying before Congress about encounters that defied conventional explanation. Classified videos were released, showing objects moving in ways that challenged known physics. But many of the most compelling encounters occurred in places where few people would ever witness them. Remote locations where unusual activity could continue without public scrutiny, places like Antarctica. Senior Chief Petty Officer Alexander Wiggins served 23 years in the Navy before deciding to share his experiences publicly. In 2023, while serving aboard the USS Jackson, he witnessed something that changed his understanding of what might be possible. Wiggins described observing a self-luminous, tic-tac-shaped object that emerged from the ocean before linking up with 3 similar objects. The craft then disappeared simultaneously, with high speed, synchronized acceleration that seemed to ignore conventional laws of physics. No sonic boom marked their departure despite apparent supersonic speeds. No conventional propulsion signatures were detected. The objects were tracked on multiple sensor systems, confirming their reality while emphasizing their impossible flight characteristics. This wasn't an isolated incident. Military personnel from various branches have reported similar encounters in polar regions, describing objects that seem particularly active around Antarctica and the Arctic Ocean. These sightings follow consistent patterns that suggest ongoing rather than random activity. The objects are typically described as metallic and disc-shaped, moving silently at impossible speeds. They seem to observe military activities without interfering directly, maintaining distance while clearly monitoring human operations. Flight crews operating in Antarctic regions report that such encounters have become routine enough to be discussed casually among personnel. The sightings are so common that many crew members no longer bother reporting them through official channels, knowing the reports will be dismissed or classified. Navy pilot Ryan Graves founded Americans for Safe Aerospace after his own encounters with unexplained objects. His organization now includes 5,000 members, primarily commercial and military pilots, who have witnessed similar phenomena. Graves estimates that only 5% of UFO sightings by military and commercial pilots are reported through official channels. The stigma associated with such reports, combined with concerns about career impact, keeps most witnesses silent about their experiences. But the consistent nature of reports from Antarctica suggests something more than random atmospheric phenomena. Multiple witnesses from different time periods describe similar objects, displaying flight characteristics that exceed human technological capabilities. The restricted airspace around certain Antarctic regions becomes particularly relevant in this context. Military personnel report being ordered to avoid specific coordinates, supposedly for safety reasons related to scientific research. But emergency situations occasionally force aircraft into these forbidden zones. When flight crews do enter restricted areas, they sometimes encounter more than they expected, structures that aren't on official maps, vehicle tracks suggesting ongoing ground operations, and occasionally, encounters with craft that clearly aren't conventional aircraft. These restricted zones coincide with areas where satellite imagery shows thermal anomalies and geometric structures. The correlation between UFO sightings and officially restricted airspace suggests coordinated activity rather than random encounters. Commercial satellite imagery now available to the public shows objects moving across Antarctic terrain at high speeds. These aren't aircraft from any acknowledged research program, yet they appear regularly in time-lapse sequences of satellite photos. The objects move in straight lines across terrain that would be impassable for conventional vehicles. They leave no visible tracks and appear to ignore topographical obstacles. Whatever technology they represent operates by principles unknown to publicly acknowledged science. Military satellites presumably capture much more detailed imagery of these phenomena, but such photographs remain classified under national security provisions. The few leaked images show objects with unconventional shapes, moving at velocities that would be impossible for known aircraft. Recent congressional hearings on unexplained aerial phenomena have focused primarily on encounters in domestic airspace, with little discussion of polar region sightings. But military witnesses have confirmed that unusual activity occurs worldwide, including in remote areas where public attention is minimal. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office investigates UFO reports but releases few details about their findings. Given the classification levels associated with Antarctic activities, investigations of polar encounters likely remain heavily restricted. Electronic warfare specialists report unusual electromagnetic signatures emanating from certain Antarctic regions. These signals don't match any known research equipment or natural phenomena, suggesting technological activity that isn't publicly acknowledged. The electromagnetic signatures sometimes correlate with visual sightings of unusual objects, providing additional confirmation that something extraordinary is occurring in Antarctica's most restricted areas. The technology involved appears to operate on principles that haven't been publicly documented. As more military personnel receive whistleblower protection and speak publicly about their experiences, the picture of ongoing anomalous activity in Antarctica becomes clearer. Whatever is happening there appears to be long-term, well-organized, and involving technology that exceeds publicly acknowledged capabilities. The frozen continent continues to be humanity's greatest mystery, harboring secrets that may revolutionize our understanding of technology, biology, and our place in the universe. Beneath Antarctica's ice sheet lies a world that few people know exists. Vast networks of caves and caverns, some natural, others that appear to be artificially constructed. Geothermal heating creates environments where temperatures remain suitable for human habitation, despite the frozen surface hundreds of feet above. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have mapped extensive hollow spaces throughout the continent. These aren't simply natural ice caves, but complex three-dimensional networks that suggest deliberate engineering and construction. Some caverns are large enough to house substantial installations, complete with multiple levels and interconnected chambers. Lake Vostok, buried beneath 2 miles of ice, represents just the largest of hundreds of subglacial lakes detected throughout Antarctica. These hidden bodies of water have remained sealed from the surface for millions of years, creating unique environments that could harbor life forms unknown to surface science. Russian drilling teams working to access Lake Vostok encountered unexpected difficulties that forced them to halt their project repeatedly. Equipment malfunctions, unusual electromagnetic interference, and strange readings from deep beneath the ice suggested something more complex than a simple underground lake. When drilling finally reached the lake's surface, the results were classified at the highest levels. Russian officials released minimal information about their discoveries, stating only that the lake contained unique microbial life forms that required further study in secure environments. But researchers familiar with the project suggest the discoveries were far more significant. Reports leaked that the lake contained structures that appeared artificial, possibly representing ruins of ancient installations or evidence of current activity beneath the ice. Seismic surveys throughout Antarctica have detected what appear to be artificial structures buried at various depths beneath the ice sheet. These signatures don't match natural geological formations, but display characteristics consistent with constructed facilities. Some of these buried structures are enormous, spanning areas larger than major cities. They appear to be interconnected through tunnel networks that extend for hundreds of miles beneath the continent. The scale suggests construction projects that would require massive resources and advanced technology. Thermal imaging reveals that many of these buried installations maintain internal temperatures significantly warmer than surrounding ice. This suggests active heating systems, possibly powered by geothermal energy sources or more advanced technologies that generate power without conventional fuel requirements. Navy SEAL whistleblower testimony describes discovery of a 62-acre underground complex with individual chambers spanning up to 9 acres each. The facility appeared to combine human and non-human architectural elements with technology that exceeded current military capabilities. According to this testimony, the complex contained operational systems and evidence of ongoing habitation, but attempts to investigate further were quickly shut down by higher authorities, and personnel involved in the discovery were transferred and debriefed under strict security protocols. Construction of such extensive underground facilities would require sophisticated boring and excavation equipment, along with massive logistical support to transport materials and personnel to remote Antarctic locations. Yet no public records exist of construction projects on the necessary scale. The most logical explanation is that such facilities are being constructed and maintained through highly classified programs that operate outside normal government oversight. These would represent special access programs with security clearances beyond normal classification levels. Alternatively, the facilities might represent much older construction, possibly predating human civilization entirely. The perfect preservation conditions beneath Antarctic ice could maintain artificial structures for thousands or millions of years without significant deterioration. Geothermal energy sources throughout Antarctica provide potential power for underground installations. Natural hot springs and volcanic activity create heating that could maintain livable conditions in carefully designed underground environments. But energy readings from some locations suggest power generation that exceeds known geothermal capacity. These installations appear to access energy sources based on principles not acknowledged in public scientific literature. Access to underground facilities would require concealed entrances distributed throughout the continent. Satellite imagery has identified numerous openings in cliff faces and ice formations that appear too regular to be natural caves. Some of these openings display evidence of regular use, with tracks and discoloration suggesting heavy equipment has been moved through them repeatedly. But the locations are invariably in restricted areas, where independent investigation is impossible. Personnel who have glimpsed these underground installations describe technology that appears decades or centuries ahead of publicly available systems. Power sources, transportation methods, and construction techniques that seem impossible based on known scientific principles. Whether these facilities represent secret human projects, evidence of ancient civilizations, or something even more extraordinary, their existence suggests that Antarctica harbors secrets far beyond routine scientific research. The underground world beneath Antarctica may be humanity's greatest mystery, containing evidence that could revolutionize our understanding of history, technology, and life itself. But access to this hidden realm remains tightly controlled by forces that prefer to keep such discoveries secret. As ice sheets continue melting due to climate change, portions of these hidden installations may eventually become accessible to investigation. The truth about Antarctica's underground civilization may finally emerge from its frozen concealment. But until then, the secrets remain buried beneath miles of ice, waiting for the day when humanity is ready to confront the extraordinary reality of what lies hidden in Earth's most remote continent. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 represents one of the most successful international agreements in human history. 12 nations, many of them bitter enemies during the Cold War, suddenly found common ground when it came to managing Earth's most remote continent. On the surface, the treaty appears to be a triumph of scientific cooperation over political rivalry. Antarctica was designated as a natural reserve, devoted to peaceful scientific research. Military activities were banned. Territorial claims were suspended. Environmental protection became a shared responsibility. But some researchers suggest the treaty serves a more secret purpose, coordinating global efforts to conceal discoveries that could fundamentally change human understanding of life on Earth. Consider the unusual level of cooperation the treaty has achieved. Nations that couldn't agree on anything else found perfect harmony when discussing Antarctica. Countries that maintained hostile relations everywhere else worked together seamlessly in polar research. The treaty system includes provisions that effectively prevent independent investigation of the continent. All activities must be approved by signatory governments. Research permits are carefully reviewed and can be denied without explanation. Access to sensitive areas is strictly controlled. These restrictions are justified as environmental protection and safety measures. Antarctica's fragile ecosystem must be preserved. Untrained visitors could endanger themselves and others in the harsh polar environment. Scientific research requires careful coordination to avoid conflicts and contamination. But the restrictions also ensure that no unauthorized personnel can investigate areas where anomalous activities might be occurring. The treaty system provides legal framework for keeping secrets while maintaining the appearance of international transparency. Scientific funding for Antarctic research flows through government agencies that can control which projects receive support. Researchers whose work ventures into controversial areas often find their funding withdrawn or their permit applications rejected. Academic careers depend on maintaining good relationships with funding agencies and international research organizations. Scientists who investigate UFO connections or ancient civilization theories risk professional suicide. Self-censorship becomes a survival mechanism. The peer review process for scientific publications provides another layer of control. Papers discussing anomalous discoveries or unconventional theories are routinely rejected by mainstream journals. Researchers learn to avoid topics that might damage their professional credibility. Classification systems allow governments to suppress information under national security provisions. Special access programs operate beyond normal classification levels, compartmentalizing information so completely that even high-level officials may be unaware of certain activities. Need-to-know restrictions ensure that personnel involved in sensitive projects only access information directly related to their specific assignments. This prevents individuals from assembling complete pictures of larger operations, even if they have appropriate security clearances. Legal frameworks provide severe penalties for unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Whistleblower protection laws contain exceptions for national security matters. Personnel who witness extraordinary events understand that revealing their experiences could result in imprisonment or worse. Media coverage of Antarctic activities focuses almost exclusively on climate change research and wildlife studies. Serious investigation of anomalous phenomena is rare, and when it occurs, it's usually presented as entertainment rather than legitimate news reporting. Social media platforms and internet search engines can suppress or demote content discussing Antarctic conspiracies. Algorithms designed to combat misinformation may inadvertently hide legitimate research into anomalous phenomena. Economic interests provide additional motivation for secrecy. Advanced technology discovered in Antarctica could be worth trillions of dollars to whoever controls its development and deployment. Mineral resources beneath the ice could represent vast wealth for countries that gain access. International competition for these potential resources creates incentives for cooperation in maintaining secrecy. Nations may prefer to share hidden knowledge among themselves rather than risk public disclosure that could complicate resource extraction or technology development. Corporate interests also benefit from suppressing information about advanced technology. Companies invested in current energy, transportation, and manufacturing systems could face devastating losses if revolutionary technologies became publicly available. The pattern of evidence suggests a coordinated international effort to control information about Antarctica's true nature. Government agencies, scientific institutions, academic organizations, and media companies all seem aligned in maintaining official narratives while suppressing alternative investigations. This level of coordination could only be achieved if the stakes were enormous. Whatever secrets lie buried beneath Antarctic ice must be significant enough to justify decades of systematic deception involving multiple governments and thousands of individuals. But coordination also creates vulnerabilities. As more people become involved in maintaining secrecy, the chances of disclosure increase. Technological advances make surveillance and control more difficult. Social changes reduce deference to governmental authority. The international cover-up of Antarctic secrets may be gradually breaking down. Too many witnesses are coming forward. Too much evidence is accumulating. Too many people are asking questions that demand answers. Truth has a way of emerging despite the best efforts to suppress it. The frozen continent may not be able to keep its secrets much longer. The 21st century has brought unprecedented changes in how governments and military organizations discuss unexplained aerial phenomena. What was once dismissed as fantasy is now acknowledged as genuine mystery, requiring serious investigation. Congressional hearings on UAPs have featured testimony from military officers describing encounters with technology that exceeds known human capabilities. These officials, speaking under oath before elected representatives, describe objects moving at impossible speeds, performing maneuvers that would destroy conventional aircraft, and displaying propulsion systems based on unknown principles. But most public discussions of UAP encounters focus on sightings in domestic airspace or near military installations. Activities in remote locations like Antarctica receive minimal attention, despite evidence suggesting that polar regions may be centers of particularly intense, anomalous activity. Military whistleblower protection has expanded significantly, encouraging more personnel to share experiences they previously kept secret. New legal frameworks provide some protection from retaliation for reporting encounters with unexplained phenomena. This protection has resulted in a steady stream of testimony from military personnel who describe routine encounters with unconventional aircraft in polar regions. The consistency of these reports, spanning multiple decades and various military branches, suggests ongoing activity rather than isolated incidents. Satellite imaging technology has improved dramatically, providing resolution and spectral analysis capabilities that reveal details invisible to previous generations of surveillance systems. Commercial satellites now offer imagery quality that once required classified military systems. These technological advances have revealed numerous anomalies in Antarctic imagery, geometric structures that appear too regular for natural formation, objects moving across terrain at velocities impossible for conventional vehicles, heat signatures suggesting active installations in regions that should be completely frozen. But improved technology also enables better suppression of sensitive information. Digital imagery can be edited or replaced more easily than physical photographs. Access to high-resolution images of sensitive areas can be restricted through licensing agreements with satellite operators. Independent researchers attempting to analyze Antarctic anomalies often find that the highest quality imagery of interesting locations is unavailable for purchase or download. Lower resolution images are substituted that obscure potentially significant details. Climate change provides both opportunities and challenges for Antarctic research. Melting ice sheets reveal previously hidden features, while simultaneously creating environmental concerns that justify restricting access to sensitive areas. Some structures that were completely buried beneath ice are beginning to protrude through thinning glacial coverage. These revelations could provide direct access to anomalies that were previously detectable only through indirect sensing methods. But environmental protection laws prevent excavation or detailed investigation of newly exposed features. Climate research funding overwhelms other types of Antarctic investigation, focusing attention on global warming impacts rather than archaeological or technological discoveries. Private sector interest in Antarctica has increased significantly as technological capabilities advance and potential resources become more valuable. Wealthy individuals and corporations are funding independent research programs that operate outside traditional government channels. Elon Musk has made cryptic statements about Antarctica that have fueled speculation about private discoveries of advanced technology. Other technology leaders have expressed unusual interest in polar research, suggesting they may have access to information not available to the general public. Private funding allows research programs to pursue investigations that government agencies might suppress or restrict. But private discoveries could also be kept secret more easily than government programs, which face some public oversight and accountability. International tensions over Antarctic activities have increased as nations expand their research presence and compete for access to potential resources. China has dramatically increased its Antarctic activities, constructing new research stations and conducting extensive surveys. Russia continues secretive drilling projects in sensitive areas, with results that remain classified. Military personnel from various nations are increasingly present in Antarctica, officially for logistical support, but potentially for more sensitive activities. These expanding operations increase the likelihood that anomalous activities will be discovered by personnel from multiple nations, making coordinated suppression more difficult. Competition between countries could eventually lead to disclosure if one nation decides to reveal discoveries for strategic advantage. Recent developments suggest that the long-maintained secrecy surrounding Antarctic activities may be becoming unsustainable. Too many people are involved. Too much technology is available for independent investigation. Too many competing interests are pursuing their own research programs. The truth about Antarctica's hidden secrets may be approaching a tipping point where disclosure becomes inevitable. Whether that revelation comes through official government acknowledgement, private sector discoveries, or unauthorized leaks by courageous whistleblowers remains to be seen. But the evidence continues accumulating that Antarctica harbors secrets far more extraordinary than routine scientific research. The frozen continent may soon reveal mysteries that will revolutionize human understanding of technology, history, and our place in the universe. Modern scientific instruments are revealing anomalies throughout Antarctica that challenge conventional understanding of the continent's geology, biology, and physical characteristics. These discoveries suggest the presence of artificial structures, advanced technology, and possibly non-terrestrial activity beneath the ice. Gravitational surveys conducted by NASA and other space agencies have detected massive objects buried throughout Antarctica that create measurable distortions in Earth's gravitational field. These anomalies don't match typical geological formations, but suggest concentrated masses of metallic materials arranged in geometric patterns. The Wilkes Land gravity anomaly represents the largest of these buried objects, but dozens of smaller anomalies have been detected throughout the continent. Many coincide with locations where other unusual phenomena have been reported, suggesting a connection between buried objects and surface activities. Magnetometer readings throughout Antarctica reveal magnetic field disturbances that affect compass navigation and electronic equipment. These disturbances are particularly intense in areas where gravitational anomalies have been detected, suggesting the presence of large metallic structures or active electromagnetic systems. Some magnetic anomalies pulse in regular patterns that appear too precise to be natural phenomena. The synchronized timing suggests technological systems operating according to programmed parameters rather than random geological processes. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have mapped extensive hollow spaces beneath the ice sheet, many displaying geometric shapes that suggest artificial construction. These caverns are often interconnected through tunnel networks that extend for hundreds of miles beneath the continent. The radar signatures don't match natural cave formation patterns, but display characteristics consistent with deliberately excavated spaces. Some caverns appear to contain structures that reflect radar signals differently than surrounding ice or rock, suggesting artificial materials or technology. Seismic monitoring stations throughout Antarctica detect vibration patterns that don't match typical geological activity. Instead of random earthquake tremors, instruments record regular pulses that suggest mechanical rather than natural origins. These mechanical vibrations often coincide with sightings of unusual objects moving through Antarctic skies or across surface terrain. The correlation suggests that observed phenomena may be connected to active systems operating beneath the ice sheet. Atmospheric monitoring reveals unusual electromagnetic activity throughout Antarctica that doesn't match known natural phenomena. Radio signals originate from locations where no acknowledged transmitters exist, broadcasting on frequencies that aren't assigned to any research stations. Some of these signals appear to be deliberately generated communications, using encoding methods that don't match any publicly known systems. The signals sometimes synchronize between different locations, suggesting coordinated activity across vast distances. Thermal imaging reveals heat sources throughout Antarctica that exceed what geothermal activity should produce. While the continent does contain volcanic areas and hot springs, many thermal anomalies occur in regions where no natural heating sources are known to exist. These thermal signatures often form geometric patterns or concentrate in areas where other anomalies have been detected. The precise temperatures and regular patterns suggest technological rather than natural heating sources. Biological sampling has revealed microorganisms in Antarctic ice that contain DNA sequences unlike any known terrestrial life forms. Some genetic material appears to be artificially modified or engineered, rather than naturally evolved. Preserved biological specimens found in ice samples include organic materials that seem too well preserved for their estimated age, suggesting either different preservation methods or much more recent origin than supposed. Chemical analysis of ice cores from certain Antarctic locations reveals unusual isotope ratios and trace elements that don't match natural precipitation patterns. These signatures suggest atmospheric contamination from artificial sources or exposure to exotic materials. Some chemical signatures are consistent with advanced manufacturing processes or exotic propulsion systems that would leave distinctive atmospheric traces. The presence of such materials in ancient ice suggests long-term technological activity in Antarctic regions. Electromagnetic spectrum analysis reveals energy signatures throughout Antarctica that don't match any known natural or artificial sources. These readings suggest power generation and transmission systems based on principles not acknowledged in public scientific literature. The energy signatures often correlate with locations where other anomalies have been detected, suggesting that buried installations may be operational and consuming substantial amounts of power for unknown purposes. Materials recovered from certain Antarctic locations display physical properties that exceed known engineering capabilities. Metallic fragments show strength-to-weight ratios that would be impossible using current metallurgy, and crystal structures that suggest advanced nanotechnology manufacturing. These materials are typically classified immediately upon discovery, preventing independent analysis that might reveal their true nature and origin. But leaked reports describe substances that would revolutionize manufacturing and materials science if their properties could be replicated. The accumulation of scientific evidence points to technological activity throughout Antarctica that far exceeds acknowledged research programs. Whether this technology represents secret human projects, ancient artifacts, or non-terrestrial installations, the evidence suggests extraordinary discoveries are being systematically suppressed. The scientific method depends on open sharing of data and independent verification of results. But Antarctic research operates under classification systems and access restrictions that prevent normal scientific processes from operating effectively. As evidence continues accumulating and technology improves, the truth about Antarctica's anomalous phenomena may become impossible to suppress. The frozen continent holds secrets that could revolutionize human understanding of science, technology, and life itself. After examining decades of witness testimony, classified documents, satellite imagery, and scientific evidence, a picture emerges of activities in Antarctica that dwarf anything officially acknowledged. The continent appears to serve as a hub for technological development and research programs that operate far beyond public knowledge or democratic oversight. The evidence suggests that human civilization has been in contact with non-human intelligence for much longer than officially admitted. This contact may have begun during the early 20th century expeditions to Antarctica, when explorers discovered technology and installations that couldn't have been created by any known human civilization. Advanced propulsion systems observed throughout Antarctica operate on principles that haven't been publicly acknowledged by mainstream science. These technologies appear to manipulate gravity, electromagnetic fields, and possibly space-time itself to achieve flight characteristics that exceed anything in the public domain by centuries. Energy generation systems detected in Antarctic installations appear to access power sources far beyond fossil fuels, nuclear fission, or even fusion reactions. The technology may draw energy directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations, zero-point fields, or dimensional interfaces that tap into unlimited power supplies. Materials science applications observed in Antarctic activities demonstrate manufacturing capabilities that would revolutionize every industry on Earth. Substances with impossible strength-to-weight ratios, self-repairing structures, and programmable matter that can change its physical properties on command. Medical and biological technologies developed in Antarctic facilities appear capable of extending human lifespan indefinitely, reversing aging processes, and enhancing human physical and mental capabilities beyond natural limitations. Genetic engineering techniques may be creating hybrid organisms that combine human and non-human characteristics. Information processing systems operating in Antarctica appear to utilize quantum computing, biological neural networks, or exotic physics that enable computational capabilities exceeding all known supercomputers combined. These systems may be capable of modeling entire planetary ecosystems, predicting future events with extraordinary accuracy, or accessing information through non-local connections. The scope of underground installations throughout Antarctica suggests construction projects that would require resources and labor forces far beyond any acknowledged national program. The technology to excavate and construct such facilities may itself represent advances that haven't been publicly revealed. Transportation systems connecting Antarctic installations may utilize tunnel networks, underground railways, or teleportation technologies that enable rapid movement of personnel and materials without surface detection. Travel times between distant locations may be reduced to minutes rather than hours or days. Climate manipulation capabilities demonstrated in Antarctica may extend far beyond weather modification to include terraforming technologies capable of creating livable environments in otherwise impossible locations. These systems could potentially reverse global climate change or create artificial biospheres for off-world colonization. Communication systems operating from Antarctic installations may utilize quantum entanglement, dimensional interfaces, or consciousness-based technologies that enable instantaneous information transfer across any distance without conventional electromagnetic limitations. The integration of human and non-human technologies in Antarctic facilities suggests collaborative research programs that combine terrestrial knowledge with information provided by non-human intelligence. These joint projects may be developing technologies that neither species could achieve independently. Reverse engineering programs may be systematically analyzing recovered non-human technology to develop applications for terrestrial use. Some of the technological advances introduced into human civilization over the past century may actually represent controlled disclosure of discoveries made in Antarctic. Research facilities, monitoring and surveillance capabilities operating from Antarctica may be tracking global activities with extraordinary precision, potentially observing individual human activities anywhere on Earth in real time. These systems may be assessing humanity's development and readiness for broader contact with non-human civilizations. The truth about Antarctica's activities has implications that extend far beyond technological advancement. Evidence suggests that human understanding of history, biology, physics, and our place in the universe is fundamentally incorrect, based on information that has been systematically suppressed. Ancient civilizations may have achieved technological capabilities that exceeded current human development before being destroyed by natural disasters, warfare, or other catastrophes. Evidence of these lost civilizations may be preserved in Antarctic installations. providing access to knowledge that could accelerate human development by thousands of years. The presence of non-human intelligence on Earth may represent ongoing contact that has continued for millennia, with Antarctica serving as a primary interface zone where interaction occurs outside public observation. Humanity may be participants in larger galactic civilizations, while remaining largely unaware of these connections. Environmental monitoring and intervention capabilities operating from Antarctica may be actively managing Earth's climate, preventing natural disasters, or protecting the planet from cosmic threats that would otherwise destroy human civilization. We may be beneficiaries of protection we don't recognize. The systematic suppression of this information represents perhaps the greatest deception in human history, involving multiple governments, scientific institutions, religious organizations, and media companies in coordinated efforts to maintain public ignorance about the true nature of reality. But truth has a way of emerging despite the best efforts to suppress it. As evidence accumulates and more witnesses come forward, the extraordinary secrets hidden beneath Antarctic ice may soon be revealed to a world that isn't prepared for such revolutionary discoveries. We've journeyed through decades of evidence, witness testimony, classified documents, and scientific discoveries that paint a picture of Antarctica unlike anything most people have ever imagined. The frozen continent emerges not as a barren wilderness, but as potentially the most significant location on Earth for understanding humanity's true place in the universe. The consistency of witness accounts spanning multiple decades and various military branches suggests experiences that transcend individual hallucination or mistake. When Navy flight engineers, Air Force intelligence officers, and Marine personnel independently describe similar encounters with advanced technology in Antarctic regions, the testimonies deserve serious consideration. Physical evidence from satellite imagery, gravitational surveys, and electromagnetic monitoring provides objective confirmation that anomalous activities are occurring throughout Antarctica. These aren't subjective interpretations but measurable phenomena that demonstrate the presence of structures and systems that exceed publicly acknowledged capabilities. The pattern of government secrecy and classification surrounding Antarctic activities indicates discoveries significant enough to justify extraordinary efforts at suppression. Normal scientific research doesn't require such extensive security measures or international coordination to maintain silence. Yet skepticism remains warranted when evaluating such extraordinary claims. Natural phenomena can produce effects that appear artificial to untrained observers. Psychological factors associated with extreme environments can influence perception and memory. Government secrecy often relates to conventional military or economic interests rather than revolutionary discoveries. The burden of proof for claims about alien contact, ancient civilizations, or revolutionary technology rightfully remains high. Extraordinary assertions require extraordinary evidence, and much of what we've examined consists of testimony, imagery, and indirect measurements, rather than definitive physical proof. Alternative explanations exist for every anomaly we've discussed. Gravitational signatures could represent unusual geological formations. Thermal anomalies might indicate unknown but natural geothermal processes. Electromagnetic disturbances could result from interactions between solar radiation and Antarctic atmospheric conditions. But the accumulation of evidence creates a compelling case that something extraordinary is occurring in Antarctica. Even if individual pieces of evidence can be explained conventionally, the overall pattern suggests activities that transcend routine scientific research. The implications of potential disclosure extend far beyond satisfying curiosity about government secrets. If advanced technology exists that could revolutionize energy production, transportation, manufacturing, and medicine, withholding such capabilities may perpetuate unnecessary human suffering and environmental destruction. Contact with non-human intelligence would fundamentally change humanity's understanding of life, consciousness, and our cosmic significance. Such revelation could inspire unprecedented cooperation in addressing global challenges, or trigger social disruption as existing institutions struggle to adapt. The discovery of ancient advanced civilizations would rewrite human history and challenge assumptions about technological development, cultural evolution, and our species' ultimate potential. We might learn that current human achievements represent recovery of capabilities that were once routine. As technology advances and information becomes more difficult to suppress, the truth about Antarctica may emerge regardless of official preferences. Satellite imagery resolution continues improving. Independent research capabilities expand. Social media enables rapid sharing of information that traditional gatekeepers once controlled. International competition for Antarctic resources and research access may eventually motivate disclosure if nations believe revealing secrets provides strategic advantage. The current system of coordinated suppression could collapse if participants no longer trust each other to maintain silence. Climate change is physically exposing features that were previously hidden beneath ice. Some discoveries may become impossible to conceal, as glacial melting reveals structures or artifacts that demand public attention and investigation. The growing number of whistleblowers with legal protection may reach a tipping point where collective testimony becomes impossible to dismiss or suppress. Truth tends to emerge when enough people with integrity decide that secrecy serves no legitimate purpose. Whether Antarctica's secrets involve alien contact, ancient ruins, revolutionary technology, or something else entirely, the evidence suggests we're approaching a time when hidden knowledge may finally be revealed. The frozen continent has kept its secrets well, but even ice eventually melts. The questions we've explored tonight may soon have answers. Are we alone in the universe? Have advanced civilizations visited Earth? Do governments possess technology that could solve humanity's greatest challenges? Is our understanding of history fundamentally incomplete? Antarctica holds keys to mysteries that could transform human civilization. The truth is out there, waiting beneath miles of ice and layers of official secrecy. Whether that truth emerges through gradual disclosure, dramatic revelation, or accidental discovery, the frozen continent's greatest secrets may not remain hidden much longer. Until then, we can only examine the evidence, question official narratives, and remain open to possibilities that challenge our assumptions about reality itself. The most incredible truths are often hidden in the most impossible places. And sometimes the most impossible places turn out to be more real than we ever imagined. As we reach the end of our journey through Antarctica's frozen mysteries, the questions linger like shadows across the ice. Was Admiral Byrd's encounter real or elaborate fiction? Do the satellite anomalies reveal natural formations or something far more extraordinary? Why does the world's most isolated continent require such extraordinary secrecy? The truth remains buried beneath miles of ancient ice, waiting. Perhaps it will emerge through melting glaciers, advancing technology, or a whistleblower's courage. Perhaps it's already emerging, piece by careful piece. What do you think lies beneath Antarctica's ice? Have you noticed the strange patterns in satellite images, or wondered why certain coordinates remain blurred? Share your thoughts below. I read every comment, especially from fellow explorers of the unexplained. Until next time, keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, some of the greatest mysteries are hiding in plain sight, frozen in time at the bottom of our world.